Okay, so there have been two really big rumors circulating around the E. One, of course, is the return of Batista, heading to WrestleMania 30. He's been mentioned as being in certain locations in February. He's been pulled from those advertisements, so potentially he could be a surprise entrance in the Royal Rumble, which would be interesting. He would be a very different sort of part-timer to have for that January through probably SummerSlam sort of time frame. That's, of course, when you saw people like Jericho did his return around that time. You saw a similar thing with The Rock, Rob Van Dam. You're seeing people who come back, do about like a 6 to 8 month bit. They'll try to hit 2 of the main pay-per-views and then be done. Interesting to see him come back. Some people have mentioned he'd be great to see alongside The Authority, which would be interesting. Seeing him and Triple H on the same side, as well as Randy Orton. And other people have said, well, the last match he had was against John Cena. John Cena beat him the next night he came out and he quit. That's when I believe John Cena beat him with duct tape. So you thought wrestling was bad? Yes, Batista's last match he lost by duct tape. It'd be interesting to see him come back and have him almost immediately attack someone like John Cena. That way then Undertaker can take on whoever he wants to instead of taking on John Cena at WrestleMania. Or John Cena could take on The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Batista could somehow get involved, and that way John Cena can lose and save face, Taker still gets a win. Lots of things you can do with it. It'd also be unique to see maybe a Batista Roman Reigns, Batista Big E Langston, Batista Ryback. I'm pretty sure Batista could probably give Ryback some decent pointers to help him out in the ring. Or you just go for larger feuds. He had a great feud with Mark Henry back in the day. Maybe they could redo something like that. Or just use another big man to be large and intimidating. And then, this one, depending on when you're watching this, might still be topical, might entirely be past. AJ Styles. Recently his contract came up. He may or may not still be in negotiations to go back to TNA. TNA has mentioned that they do want to do a pay cut. Currently, he makes $350,000 a year. If he takes a pay cut, he'll probably still make the 300 range. Now, before we all start crying for him, it's $300,000 a year. I think when Orton was getting divorced, it was mentioned that Orton's base is like $300,000 before merchandising. So that means in TNA, he's one of the highest paid guys because he works a tremendous amount of days. And let's face it, when you think TNA, you tend to think AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Jeff Jarrett. There's a small list of names depending on when you thought of TNA. You might think TNA, then you might think Hogan, Bischoff. Depends on what era you watch TNA. So lots of people throw out lots of commentary. You should totally go to the E, and he'd be awesome to see in the Royal Rumble. Now, ironically, people say he's too small. He's like 230, 235, and he's like 6'1". So he's technically, he's about CM Punk size, but bigger than Daniel Bryan. So he's a decent sized guy. He's not 6'6", 280. He's not Triple H, he's not a Batista, he's not a Ryback. But he's a good sized guy. And he's incredibly athletic. And over the years, he's gotten pretty good on the mic. And he's got a really good style. However, he would be an odd fit in the E. I'm going to tell you why. His style is still somewhat more of the indie style. He does do lots of really big high spots. He'd be great to see him match with the following people. He'd be awesome with Rollins, Bryan, Punk. He could probably do a great feud with someone like Bray Wyatt. He'd be awesome to see in the ring, someone like Kofi Kingston. I want Kofi to really shine. He'd also be great with R-Truth, because they wrestled back in TNA. He's got a great varied amount of moves. He would have a fantastic feud with Tyson Kidd. If you have Tyson Kidd on the map, these two guys tearing down the house would do a great job. I don't see him going from being the top guy in TNA, coming over, and being a main event guy. I picture he would easily get Christian, where Christian was decent. He was lower main when he left E, went to TNA, became their top guy. Left TNA, come back to the WWE, and he kind of was in that upper mid, lower main until Edge left. Once Edge retired, then Christian had that little bump up, but he's never going to really break into that big main event. I don't think you would see Christian main event a pay-per-view, and I think it'd be difficult to see AJ Styles main event a pay-per-view. He is also up in age. I think he's like in his mid-30s. Ironically, if the E were to bring him in, he's probably not going to hit his real high point probably about a couple of years. So he's going to be a main event guy when he's really close to 40. And he'd be coming, I think, slightly older than John Cena, slightly older than Orton. It'd be great to see him. I think that if he doesn't sign with the E, he will become the next guy that'll be Sting. Where it's, if he was only in the E, it would have been so awesome. You could have had, I probably think a dozen matches that he could have had. That would have been really fantastic matches. But it's also mentioned, too, that he doesn't have any vices. He's like a Shelton Benjamin. Made good money, didn't do anything crazy. If he wants to walk away now, he could. If he could easily walk up, be like, I'm going to do a couple matches here and there in TNA, do some indie shows, and I'm going to relax on a big pile of money. Very much like what we'll see CM Punk do in probably about 2 years. So while it'd be awesome to see AJ Styles in the E, I don't think they know how to use him, especially if Vince is still in charge. If Triple H is more in charge, I can picture him probably figuring out how to make him work. How to make his style blend well with the E. You're probably thinking, no, he'd be great. Remember, Sin Cara was awesome. Mystico was awesome in Mexico. He tried to bring that style to the E, and there are very few guys that really gel with him quite well. AJ Styles. Again, this guy has a very varied style. We don't see that much in the E, which he'd be very entertaining to see, very exciting. But there are lots of guys who he probably could not gel with. And the guys he could gel with would have fantastic matches if Vince were to sit there and go, okay, you two have 25 minutes. All right, winner's number one contender. We're not going to... You guys are going to go out there. You're going to feed off the crowd, hit the crowd's direction, book your own match, go. If Vince were to do that every now and then, I think you see some fantastic matches from people who can actually work a match from the physical and the psychological standpoint and know how to use the crowd to gauge which direction the match should ultimately flow. So I think it'd be great to see in the E. I think the E has absolutely no idea what to do with them.